Hello. It's been about a year since coronavirus as a pandemic has happened. And so it's really been interesting to see sort of the layout of what is going on and, just kind of reflecting a year of a global pandemic. I think it's really the first one of my lifetime and probably most people. Um, because I wasn't really around for the AIDS epidemic or anything like that, and I certainly wasn't around for the Spanish flu or polio. But it is something that is quite remarkable when you look at it now and look back at how the world has changed due to the pandemic. Just reflecting on some of my experiences, I remember hearing that there was going to be some sort of restrictions and things like that. Obviously, some of the restrictions had already been going on in Europe, but I knew eventually it was going to cross the pond and make its way to the United States. And so, what I had did is just go out and get food because I knew that was the most important thing. I actually hadn't really thought about getting toilet paper or paper towels or anything like that because I already, buy that in bulk. So I wasn't really hurting that much on 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 those type of necessities or commodities. But I knew I would need food. I had plenty of water, things like that, and so hopefully, the power and things like that, and Wi-Fi and internet connections would still remain the same. But I knew that by and large, things were going to be different. You weren't going to be able to go outside as freely as you were in the past. But it didn't really change my outlook on what I had kind of figured what would happen. I've been through, a few other health scares and things like that, like with the swine flu, the H1N1 virus, and also just going through Ebola while being in the healthcare industry was really something that, it didn't really scare me that much. Because I had already been through sort of those kind of alarmist things, and I didn't really figure into the fact that anything major would happen from that, other than travel and things like that might be restricted, and it might be some commodities and things like that that would run short. But I remember the night that it happened. I remember the night that the president had called for it. I had just recently went to the store like later that afternoon and got food and things like that. But when Trump had made the announcement, a friend had called me and said, "Hey, do you need anything from Walmart or anything like that?" And so even though I didn't really need anything, I just kind of tagged along with them, and it was kind of astonishing to see that many people in the store, and also the fact that there were aisles that were completely cleared of toilet paper and just water and just a lot of things. And I got to think to myself, like, this is not really how you should manage an emergency like this. Mainly because the fact that there weren't really that many cases in Southern Illinois or Illinois in general, and the cases in the United States were still fairly low compared to other regions of the world, like like Southern Europe and Northern Northwest Europe and even Asia. Most specifically like Korea and Japan and Taiwan and China. Uh, so it wasn't really something that I was really all that fearful about until some of the hysteria that did go into the panic buying and things like that. And so I just thought to myself that, I really hope it doesn't get worse. And for the most part, it really hasn't. Obviously, more people have died and there's been more infection cases, but by and large, I think it's been relatively, just isolate. Like the isolation has been kind of rough. Not being able to see my family, in that whole time. It was literally that December in 2019, I graduated from college, and then approximately this time last year, uh, the pandemic had started. So I had literally not seen my family from the time that I graduated until now. So it's really been, obviously we talk on the phone and things like that, and I video chat them, and we have other communications and things like that, but just not being able to go and see them, or um, missing out on family events. And there's been a couple of members of my family that have passed away unrelated to COVID, but it's just really been, kind of eye opening to what really is important. Obviously, toilet paper and paper towels are niceties to have, but they're not niceties that trump the fact that you still need food and water and shelter and things like that. Even some of my clothing choices have sort of regressed to the bare essentials of t-shirts and sweatpants. And so, I think a lot of people have gone through this transition in different ways, especially for people who have maybe um, been in workplaces that no longer employ them, or children that have gone on and off to school, or just been in Zoom classes. It's just something that is really particularly interesting. It's just really eye opening to see the transformation of society on such a global level. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to deal with more and more as we globalize and have more of a monoculture in not just the United States but the world, is that we're becoming so connected, is that something like a virus that started out in southern China can spread across the globe and affect much of the world in horrific ways. Not just the United States, but Brazil, Western Europe, Italy. Um, you know, it's just something that really many people have to understand, is that we are so connected now that we shouldn't try to miss sight of the fact that something like this is bound to happen again. And so just a year into this, it's just, there obviously were mistakes made on not just the precautions, but just some of the information given about the coronavirus. And obviously, we still don't quite know the origins or circumstances surrounding this virus. But we have to understand is that I think it's going to be something it has, but something that will continue to shape our world going forward. It's always interesting to just see some people on Twitter and social media talk about how we're in, one, like, uh, year two of coronavirus. And so they were just kind of mentioning how we're going to have to restructure time in such a way that, we had before COVID, which is BC, and then we're going to have after COVID, which is AC. And so I think it is something that is going to continue to shape our world and our lives, but we can't really let it get us down. I think obviously taking precautions and, um, doing some of the just, not necessarily common sense things, but just taking necessary precautions of limiting travel and, gatherings of a number of people, and also being vaccinated. I don't know what the effective rate will be on the new variants or strains of coronavirus, but you just look and see that the vaccines will save people's lives in such an astounding way. And so, it is something that we have to focus on going forward. So, yeah.